Continue. Now, again, listen, everybody. This is a serious matter. We're going to try to get through this. Please refrain the dick waving and the comments. Save it for outside. Please respect the court. That's all I
You
ask.
guys don't see me, huh?
Do we do now
Oh,
just now?
now we do.
Jesus Christ.
Mr. Wolf,
Oh, head's so
do you
shiny.
have any evidence or
I
witness to
know it
call?
happens every time you guys come in that door, you know
I
what I
would
mean? And
like to
people are
call
leaned
Miss
up.
Moretti up the stand and bring forth the evidence of the picture you took on the scene as well.
All right.
Beautiful. Thank you. That's a camera, by the way, but
Miss Moretti, can you come to the stand that is here to my right?
Oh, we got a fish.
All right. Can we get her sworn in here, bailiff?
Could I make sure
Okay,
you
ma'am, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you foster?
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right, Mr.
Okay.
Wolf, you may proceed.
Okay, what's your name, miss?
Gray Moretti.
Where do you reside?
Well, currently I'm in transition of moving to Los Santos still, so I'm just moving around motel to motel, just depending on what's available.
As we all are, aren't we? Why are you here today?
I am just a witness on the case of, I guess, a shooting between police and Alejandro Vasquez.
Okay. Where were you on May 28th on today?
I was quite a few places, but in regards to this incident, I was coming down from Harmony Repairs back down to my work, which is Premium Deluxe Motorsport. I had left prior. This is where I actually saw Alejandro with me. He was getting a repair as well, and we were both heading back down into work. I started heading down southbound Los Santos Freeway, and I just heard like this huge shootout. Observed the area very quickly because I was driving. I saw um, a prison bus on the overpass, and just a ton of bullets just spraying all around the freeway in every direction. I got out of the area as soon as possible, and then I headed back up to work to PDM.
Okay. Anything that stuck out to you about the scene? Possibly certain individuals shooting at the cops. Any descriptions?
I never saw any individuals shooting at the cops. I just saw the cops shooting. So there's kind of, do you want me to start from like the entire beginning? Because it's kind of a lot of details that went into it.
Yeah, if you would like to.
Okay, so basically, when I was first heading into work, they were on the overpass, just kind of shooting in all directions. I didn't stay to observe. I felt like my safety was not of anyone's concern in that area, so I got out of there. Head to PDM. As soon as I got to PDM, I received a text from Alejandro Vasquez. He stated that he had been shot by cops and that he was passing out at the driver's wheel. And as soon as I got that text, I texted him to send me a GPS. As soon as I didn't receive one, it had maybe about a minute or two had passed. Didn't receive one. I was like, maybe he's in that area that I just drove by as well. So I headed in that direction, up northbound Elgin. I took the side street. I didn't take the freeway. And then there was still shooting at this time. So this is probably about 3 to 4 minutes later, and still shooting going on. So I opted to stay away from the scene. I didn't want to get caught in the middle of it. From that point, I observed police, 2 officers shooting with their ARs onto the northbound lanes of Los Santos Freeway at 2 separate vehicles. One of them being a muscle car, the other one dark in color. I'm not sure which make it was. I didn't feel safe. I was like, time had passed. Maybe Alejandro had gotten picked up by medical professionals, like whether it was, Metafly or an ambulance or whatnot. Let me go check Pillbox. So I went over to Pillbox. I just noticed that there's about six to seven medical staff at the hospital at the front door. So I assumed, maybe the officers hadn't brought anybody in and nobody had been picked up or nobody made a phone call. So after about 2 to 3 minutes later, after waiting there, I headed back in the direction of Elgin and Vinewood Park Drive. And then when I got to the intersection, the shooting had stopped at this point. I observed Alejandro's gray Raiden to my left. So it's west of Elgin. And I found him laying on the grass being treated by off-duty EMS. And she stated that he had been shot in the head. He had shallow breathing. He was unresponsive. She had tried to pack his wounds as best she could. And then there was another gentleman who I did not know, didn't catch their names. They ended up running in the direction of where officers were, towards the prison bus on the overpass. I assumed to help, but I never saw him again. He did say that he called an ambulance, though, so we waited for approximately another 3 minutes for an ambulance to show up, and no one ever did, so I opted to throw him in my back of my vehicle because his airways were closing, and we took him to pillbox.
Okay, so to ask you to elaborate here, you said there was never an ambulance called for Mr. Vasquez.
An ambulance was called, stated by the gentleman that was behind the EMS, the off-duty EMS. He said he did. I never personally called. At that time, while we were waiting for an ambulance to show up, I did take a couple of snapshots with my phone, which I gave to you, of just kind of to lay out the location of where he was, where I found him, the location of the original police scene. So you should have all those.
Okay, perfect. And in the pictures here, we can see that there are police down, so they have been shot at. I believe I asked you this before, but just to clarify further, you did not see the people shooting at the police, correct?
Correct. No, I did not.
Okay. Were the police ever shooting in your direction or anything like that, threatening you when you were on the scene?
No, I never saw any police when I made it on the scene officially. And then from the first time, like I said, I just got out of the area as quick as possible. So I couldn't tell you if it was the police shooting from my first incident going down from Harmony Repairs to work. I can't tell you if that was police or criminals or whatnot who was shooting at them. But I
Okay.
did observe the two police officers shooting their ARs onto the northbound lanes of Los Santos Freeway into two vehicles.
So you said it was a gunfight. Passing by, did you feel that this was a dire and intense, maybe threatening situation?
Absolutely. I didn't want to be there. I got out of the area. The only reason why we've been re-engaged in the scene at all is because it was Alejandro and he texted me. So I'm not going to let somebody that I care about just, pass out and bleed out. He said he was shot. I was going to help him if I could.
Okay. And then, to your experience, do you believe that Alejandro, or do you know if Alejandro has any prior criminal convictions on his record?
That I would not
Objection, Your
know.
Honor.
Objection, Your Honor. Relevance?
Yeah, sustained relevance.
Okay.
She can't hold that information either.
The plaintiff rests. I have no further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Wolf. Defense, would you like to cross-examine?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you. Thank you for being here today.
Yeah,
I
of course.
appreciate you coming in and making a statement for us. I'm just looking at the evidence presented here in this this photograph. Do you have that photograph? Do you know what it looks like?
I believe there should be at least 3.
The first one with the prison bus in it. Are you aware of that picture?
Yes. Yeah, that was one of them I took.
Right at the front of the penitentiary bus there. Could you tell us what's on the ground right there?
Are you talking about the officer that's down?
Well, yes, I am.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, that is an officer down. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
All right. When you took that picture, what were you doing?
Taking the picture.
Well, of course. Where were you at? Were you near Mr. Vasquez?
Yes, I was near Mr. Vasquez. So where the prison bus is located, it was on the overpass of Vinewood Park Drive. So right there in between like the casino races, racetrack and Vinewood Bowl. So it's like in that little strip area right there where Mr. Vasquez was found. He was found the intersection of Elgin and Vinewood Park Drive. He was just west of that. So I'm not
Alright.
sure if he was taking the exit or if he took the back road of Elgin and he was caught in a crossfire somehow. I never got that exact information.
And you said that some time had passed since you first passed this scene. You went to work, you got a text message, you came back, and then you left again, and then you
Correct.
came back. So you've been in this scene 3 times now? Is that correct?
Correct.
Do you normally put yourself in harm's way, ma'am?
No, absolutely not. And that's why I always kept a safe distance.
All right.
If it had not been Alejandro, I would not even have re-engaged. I would have been at work the entire time.
I understand. You're just looking out for your friend, of course. My question to you is, you said you saw officers firing weapons. Is that correct?
Correct. That was at the safe distance. So I was on the side street of Elgin, just south of Vinewood Park Drive. I had maybe been half a mile, and I can see in the clear distance that it was 2 officers on the overpass spraying bullets onto the northbound Los Santos freeway at 2 vehicles, and one of them actually eventually made it off the exit.
And so you're aware that they were shooting at a vehicle. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes, I could see that in the
Oh,
distance.
very well. Okay. That's great. Um, could you identify these vehicles?
Like I stated, one of them was a 2-door muscle car, and the other one was dark in color. I do not know the make.
Okay, and you don't know who drives those vehicles or anything like that?
Correct.
Okay. And when you found Mr. Vasquez, he was suffering from gunshot wounds, yes?
That's correct, yes.
Apparent gunshot wounds, I should say. And there was no medical personnel on their way to help him that you were aware of, and so you felt like you needed to take him to Pillbox yourself. Is that right?
I was advised that an ambulance was called. However, several minutes had passed. I waited for another 3 minutes, just waiting to see if they'd show up, kind of hearing sirens. I observed more police coming in the area, but no ambulance whatsoever. He was starting to, his airway was starting to close up per the off-duty EMS official that was there treating his wounds. So I opted to put him in my vehicle to drive him to Pillbox, yes.
Sounds like a very stressful situation, I'm sure. Now, at any point during the times that you were at the scene, did you see any officers' vehicles?
There were several, yes.
Did any of those have their lights on or sirens going?
Gosh. Sirens, no, not at the first incidents, no. But after the 3rd time that I re-engaged in the scene and I was actually next to Alejandro's side, yes, there was lights and sirens.
Lights
And
and
that's why,
sirens
yes,
going, okay.
correct.
All right. I think that's all I have for this witness, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Kane. Mr. Wolf, do you have a redirect?
I do.
All right.
I'll do that after we finish.
Miss Gray, or Miss Moretti,
Once they
Yes.
rest completely.
how long have you been in the city?
I believe since April 10th, somewhere around there.
Okay. Have you had many encounters with the police?
I have been pulled over twice for minor speeding, but never got a ticket.
Okay. Have you been in any other dangerous scenes like this before?
I wonder why.
No.
Okay. I do have a question for you. Do the police make you feel protected in this city?
Objection, Your Honor.
Objection, Your Honor. Yeah.
Yep, sustain.
No relevance to this case.
Okay. I have no further questions.
All right. Any further questions from the defense?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Moretti, for your testimony here today. You may step down.
Okay. Thank you.
You got it.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you have any more evidence or any more
love you
witnesses to call?
Yes, we have a witness that was unable to make the court trial today, but we would like to submit the statement that he gave and put it forth as evidence.
All right, would you be able to step up to the stand and read that for everybody in the court gathered?
Yes, I can. Give me a moment. Okay, this statement would be from our witness, David James. He was a passenger on a vehicle traveling southbound on the Los Angeles freeway. He was also coming from the Harmony Mechanic. I believe he is a worker or an employee there, or is a friend of the person that owns the mechanic shop. When he was traveling southbound on Los Angeles freeway, they were going to pick up a shipment of parts for the mechanic shop, and heading down southbound, they passed under the same bridge that this incident happened under. And while passing under the bridge, Mr. Johnson states that he heard fire from the police and physically saw bullets whizzing by the vehicle he was in. He states that the police never initiated any sort of verbal warning to him before they fired upon his vehicle. He said he could also see multiple random vehicles upon the highway that were not shooting back at the police that were also fired upon. Later, he inspected the vehicle for bullet holes at the mechanic shop, and they were unable to find any bullet holes that directly hit the vehicle. He still feels that he still feels uncomfortable by the situation, and is uncomfortable about being shot at by the police. I would like to clarify that he did see, in fact, that it was the officers that were firing at him. I rest.
Oh, all right. So he specifically saw the officers?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Do you have any comments, defense?
The defense would like to note that at no point did Mr. Johnson, or is it James or Johnson?
I believe there's a typo in the report. It's James.
Mr. James did not mention what the scene looked like. He did not say that there were random vehicles along the road or anything like that. He also did not mention of any location of police vehicles or lights and sirens being on, and that could lead to some omission in his report. And since we do not have a chance to cross-examine him to find out how the scene looked, we would just like that to be noted in our cross-examination of that statement.
Your Honor, I offer rebuttal.
All right, Mr. Wolf.
I would like to note for the court that the district attorney and the police have provided absolutely no evidence that they were shot at. They've provided absolutely no evidence of any hospital records and have statements from the officers.
Oh, just a second here. So the defense is actually going right next, and they're going to present their evidence today.
We
I
have
just
not
wanted
had a
to let the
chance to
court know
present
that.
our case yet, so that's unfounded.
Generally, how it works, Mr. Wolf, is the prosecution goes and the prosecution presents their evidence. Then, when they are done and they rest, the defense presents their evidence. Now, there is quite a lot of lists of subpoenas and statements that were deposited in the case docket. So, I'm not interested in what you have to say about that.
Understood, Your Honor.
Anything else, gentlemen?
No, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor.
Anything else from the prosecution?
No.
All right, so the prosecution rests then?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, defense.
The defense at this time, Your Honor, would like you to consider a motion for dismissal of this case. At no point during this hearing so far, this court case, has the prosecution shown any evidence at all that the Los Santos Police Department or the BCSO has done anything outside their general protocols. They were, as they've shown, fired upon by individuals, were returning fire at other individuals, And that is
Damn.
well within procedures and protocols. And so there is no excessive use of force or anything that may have happened. And they are protected under qualified immunity while doing their jobs. It is unfortunate that there may have been an individual or multiple individuals who were injured in this scene. However, the police department was acting well within their qualified immunity, and we seek immediate dismissal of charges.
Objection.
Cannot object from the gallery, please.
Please quiet down in the gallery.
Now, Mr. Kane, I am inclined to agree with everything you say. However, we are going to let this case proceed. I am, for the record, very disappointed that the prosecution did not call up the officers or ask any questions about officer protocol because, Mr. Kane, you are correct. We are going to let this proceed, though. Defense.
bullshit.
Very well,
man.
Your Honor. Thank you.
Do you have any evidence or witnesses you would like to call?
Your Honor, the defense would like to call Larry Boon to the stand.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Boon. Miss Gray, can you swear him in? Thank you.
You swear to say the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so say you got?
Yes, ma'am.
All right,
All right,
Mr.
Mr. Boone.
Mr. Bain, you can proceed.
Mr. Boone, how long have you been a part of the Blaine County Sheriff's Office?
Oh, almost too long to count. Oh, let's
Is there
just
an
say a
estimate?
very, very long time.
Okay,
At least
And
a year now.
a year. Okay. Have you seen incidents like this before?
Yes,
Objection,
sir.
Your Honor, leading the witness.
That is sustained. Could you rephrase your question, please, Mr. Bain?
Mr. Boone, have you seen any situation or been involved in a situation that includes massive shootouts between officers and other individuals?
Objection, Your Honor, leading the witness.
Where are you going with this, Bain?
I'm just trying to set precedence that Mr. Boone is aware of the situation that he was in and has the experience to determine what is going on within the situation.
All right, well, I'm going to sustain this objection. Can you please define and narrow it down a little bit further, please? He is an officer of the law. He, of course, gets shot at on a regular basis. We're all not stupid.
Mr. Boone, can you tell me what happened on May 28th?
Yes, I can, sir. So we were conducting a general prison transport up to Bolingbrook. Sergeant Lionheart and myself were both going to be in the scout car. We were going to go 1 to 2 minutes ahead of the prison transport. We got up to almost to the exit of the city right there. We pulled up on the overpass overlooking the freeway, and we were waiting for the prison transport to come on the freeway. Once the prison transport came on the freeway, maybe 15 to 30 seconds went by, they started receiving fire. Lionheart and myself rushed to the scene, tried to give them help. We saw they were being shot at by 2 different cars at the time. We tried to flank back around and go back up to the overpass. We wanted to get our rifles ready and provide cover and fire. About another 15-20 seconds goes by. The prison transport bus pulls up on the overpass next to us, and they get in a very defensive position with several other officers behind. At that point, a gunfight ensues. Now, I want to paint a picture here with this whole situation. We were in a defensive position, taking gunfire from all angles initially. Then they started taking cover and popping shots off at us from all angles at different times. They were very smart about this, very tactical. They started whittling us down little by little. Officers went down left and right. We started running out of ammunition. We had to get an officer to try to go and get ammunition for us back in MRPD. He was shot down trying to get there. We continued the firefight as officers went down. Towards the end of the firefight, we tried to get everybody still up on the prison transport bus. I was covering fire. At that point, I received fire from my northwest side, which was to my left. I tried to get into a different cover position, At that point, I was gunned down, and that's where my memory sort of fades.
Can you identify the vehicles that were on scene of that day on the shooting?
Objection, leading the witness.
Yeah, hold on here. Can I have counsel approach a bench, please?
Yes.
Yeah, boy, you tell him. Yeah. At least you're wearing more clothes than the last time I saw you. It's disappointing. It took my memory. I'll drink of water. You feel me? On the count of three, let's all say our favorite cop. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
All right, Mr. Boone, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Well, that's not
Okay.
how I thought that was going to go.
At the scene of the shootout, did you have your license sirens on, or did any vehicle on the scene have their license sirens on?
I can't speak for sirens. They might have been cut off, but lights were 100% on.
You under oath,
Okay.
motherfucker.
And you did return fire once fire started from the other side, correct?
Yes, sir.
Defense rests their case, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Wolf.
Okay. Okay, just to clarify, you are Mr. Larry Boon of the Blaine County Sheriff's Department, right?
Yes, sir.
And you are the Deputy Chief of the Blaine County Sheriff's Department.
Chief Deputy, yes, sir.
Sorry, correction, Chief Deputy.
That's okay, sir.
You said you've been with the force for a very long time.
Yes, sir. A very long time.
So I would imagine you would know very much about the policies and procedures of law enforcement.
Yes, sir. I would.
Okay, perfect. So you would be aware of the use of force policy in law enforcement.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Are you aware, or do you believe that your officers broke that use of force when firing on my client?
Negative, sir. Our use of force policy is to fire once fired upon. We received fire, like I said, from all angles for a very, very long time, and not necessarily having eyes on all suspects.
Mr. Alejandro Vasquez never fired upon you.
I'm not
Your
saying
Honor,
he did, sir.
That is assuming that the law enforcement officers opened fire on Mr. Vasquez. There is no proof that states that.
Your Honor, we have evidence
hold
from.
on.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to sustain this objection. Please rephrase your question.
Okay. Mr. Larry Boone, throughout your work in the field, how often do you see an AK-47 in use?
Very rarely, I would say.
You'd say it would be very rare to see that on the streets.
Yes, sir.
Okay. The people that were shooting on you, do you believe that they were a pretty large criminal organization, possibly? Are you able to identify who they were?
I cannot identify who they were, sir, but I do believe it was a large criminal organization.
Okay. In your professional opinion, how often is it that you see carbine rifles out in the public?
Well, it depends. I would say not too often. There's good weeks and bad weeks. But
how many officers on your force are equipped with the carbine rifles, just in case?
every officer and deputy, sir.
So then it would be often to see them.
except for the cadets.
Okay. In your policies, is it required to make an incident report after shooting at a citizen in Los Angeles, whether or not they have received or shot back at the officer?
Yes, it is very advised to make an incident report for
Okay, then
future court hearings.
can I ask you why there is no incident report of this incident as a whole?
I cannot tell you specifically why, sir. I can tell you every individual on scene was shot and went down. Every officer and deputy. I cannot tell you why that there is no report.
Okay. Did you receive a document from the hospital proving that you were there? For
I did
treatment?
not receive a document. I'm sure they have documentation there for my treatment that day.
Okay, so you cannot prove without a reasonable doubt that you were actually at the hospital and were shot.
No, I can. There were several individuals there that can identify me. EMS staff.
Correct, but I do ask again, you have no physical paperwork from the
No,
hospital
sir, I do
stating.
not. Not on me at this moment.
Okay. Did you ever retrieve that paperwork?
No, sir, I did not.
You did not. The plaintiff rests the
Uh,
case. I have no further questions.
If I could have a moment of redirect, please.
Yeah, of course, Mr. Kane, you may approach.
During this incident, when you were transporting these gentlemen to Bolingbroke and were fired upon, do you know what kind of weapons were being fired at you during that scene?
So the individuals shooting at us were in their vehicles. It sounded like most of them were of the handgun nature. I didn't hear any necessarily. I heard plenty of rifle fire. I don't know if I necessarily heard any other rifle fire. There was a lot going on. It was hard to identify.
I understand. About how many bullets do you think were fired in your direction, if you could say?
Oh, that hundreds. I mean, hundreds of bullets.
According to your use of force procedures, what is the standard response when fired upon?
To engage the suspects and fire back.
At any point, did you see Mr. Vasquez on the scene?
No, sir, I did not. The only cars that I personally fired upon were all individuals or suspects that were shooting at us.
Are you aware of? Well, never mind. I'll strike that. That is all I have.
All right. Mr. Bain, do you have any questions?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Wolf, do you have any further questions?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Boone, thank you for your testimony today. You may
Thank you,
step
Your
down.
Honor.
I think it's pretty good at this point. Just close it. Let him make his ruling.
All right, defense, do you have any further witness or further witnesses to call up or evidence to submit?
Your Honor, the defense would like to call up a J. Lamb to the stand.
All right, Mr. J. Lamb,
I
please
understand.
approach.
Into it, Lamb. Hell yeah.
Quiet in the back, please.
Sergeant Lamb, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you Foster?
I do.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Lamb, can you, for the record, say your full name?
It's gonna be J Lam,
Okay, what is your occupation?
Sergeant of the LSPD.
And how long have you been working with the LSPD?
5 months.
Okay. Were you at all involved at the shooting on May 28th?
I was the individual that responded with the off-duty EMS. We were just riding and we saw the incident.
Okay, can you tell me what happened on that day? Or what you saw?
Yeah, so obviously we're just going on a drive and so the off-duty EMS points to my left that there's a unarmed individual down on the ground. So we approach him, give him medical attention, me and her, since we're both semi-qualified, me and she's fully qualified. We treat his wounds as best as I can do. She takes over and she points out there's a prison bus on the bridge in a stop position surrounded by massive local cars and police cars. So once I leave her with a female, I don't know her name, shows up in a car. She instantly says, let's put him in my car, we're gonna go. Obviously I refrain from saying that. I say, EMS are already on the way. It's better to keep him here because if we move him too much, we could do worse. And then I go over there to go and check on the officers to make sure they're okay, and I leave her with him. After checking the officers, there must have been 8 officers on the ground bleeding out. I managed to help 2 of them until more police reinforcements arrive to help secure the scene so we can get EMS in. I go to run back to the suspect or individual that was shot down, and I'm told by the FG EMS that the females put him in the car and just drove away.
Okay. This situation, you said 8 officers were down, correct?
Around 8 officers, correct.
Okay. And you wouldn't believe, or in your professional opinion, would you believe that the police would have had time to treat all their own and to reach Mr. Vasquez's position and treat him as well?
No, not if he was still remaining there.
Okay, so in your professional opinion, you do not believe that the police abandoned Mr. Vasquez on scene?
Of course not. He was gone before the EMS and police managed to actually get to him. The female took him off scene.
Your Honor, the defense rests their case.
All right. Mr. Wolf, do you have any questions for Mr. Lamb here?
Yes, Your Honor.
You may approach.
Okay, Mr. Lamb, if I understand correctly, you said you were off duty during the scene, correct?
Correct.
And you were in the direct location that Mr. Vasquez was?
We passed by him.
Perfect. About how far from the scene do you think he was?
Not far enough.
Not far enough. Could you give us a distance?
Probably 3 to 4 buses long. He was also in a blind spot behind a tree.
Okay. Where was this shooting located again?
This was directly in front of on the bridge.
Okay, so this was a public location.
Correct.
So then, therefore, any reasonable person would be able to expect civilian vehicles to be passing by.
Not if there's police vehicles and a bus in full view of every road and shooting.
What if a vehicle happened to not notice these police vehicles, as Alejandro
They
Vasquez
were
stated earlier?
all over the road. They weren't just on the bridge. They was on all exits. So there was cars abandoned. There was the bus is big enough to see over the bridge, and there was police
Have you
cars
seen
and
the
civilian
picture
cars
that Miss
abandoned.
Moretti took?
I have not.
Well, in the picture, it seems that all the officers are located just on the bridge.
Correct.
I have no further questions.
All right. Defense, do you have any further questions?
Just one brief redirect, please.
Yep.
Officer, when you arrived on the scene, was there still shooting going on?
None of the time, no.
Did you see Mr. Vasquez on the scene?
Correct.
Did you see any other officers on the scene?
Yes, I saw a majority of them.
And what were they doing at the time?
They were all incapacitated. I was the only person up and able to try and treat as many as possible. I moved Park Ranger Rowdy to safe cover on the road, onto the grass, and the remainders were all left. I was trying to treat them while then other police forces rode in.
So you're saying you did not observe any officers that were standing and able to give care?
No, I was the only one.
That is all.
Mr. Wolf, any further questions?
Yes, I do.
All right.
Okay. I'm gonna go back to the distance of Mr. Vasquez away from the scene. Did the police set up any type of a barrier to separate themselves, that scene, and them from the public?
They would have been unable to.
Okay. Due to the distance of Mr. Vasquez, how do you expect it that innocent civilian, unknowing of the occurrences, would know to stay away from that area according to the
You,
distance that he was at.
according to the distance, if you paid attention to your surroundings, which you're supposed to do while driving, you would have known 100% something was going on.
Okay. I have no further questions.
All right. Any redirect from the defense?
No, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Lamb, thank you so much for your testimony. You may step down.
All right, I think defense should rest here.
Mm-hmm.
All right, defense, do you have a further witness to call?
Your Honor, the defense rests their case.
All right, so the prosecution rests and the defense have rested. Prosecution, you may now make your closing statement.
Could you repeat that, Your Honor?
You may now make your closing statement, prosecution.
Okay. Here today, I've demonstrated the police is unwilling to follow correct procedures and identify a citizen before they fire upon them. We understand that the police officers may have been shot at, but we cannot know for sure because there is no incident report, there's no hospital records, there's only words from the officers. And statements cannot be used as concrete evidence in court. The rifles that were used to put down Mr. Alejandro Vasquez, is confirmed by Mr. Larry Boon, are extremely rare to find on the streets unless they are held by police. I rest.
Well, thank you, Mr. Wolf. Defense, your closing statement, please.
Your Honor, this case has definitely been an interesting one. I ask that you think of this case as one that may be used as precedence for the next 100 years, and we ask that it comes down to your decision that the prosecution could not, with full evidence, prove to you beyond a reasonable doubt to find the defense guilty of anything the prosecution has accused us of. They do not have any evidence, and as the prosecution itself stated, witness statements are not evidence. The prosecution has also not shown any way that qualified immunity has been breached by the officers at the time of the engagement. The defense rests their case, Your Honor.
Okay, so I'm now calling court to a recess of 10 minutes. I will be making my judgment after those 10 minutes. Thank you for the good behavior.
Yeah, I went outside and screamed, "Court's back in session." I didn't even call a majority of my star witnesses. It's alright.
Sanders out there.
All right, everybody. Please be seated for the honorable judge, Bishop.
Thank you, everybody, for attending. I am ready to make my judgment on this matter. I would like quiet in the court and quiet from the gallery. I do not want any hooting or hollering. So today, I have found that the prosecution has not built a compelling enough case to prove that qualified immunity on behalf of the police has been breached. Therefore, I have ruled in favor of the defendant. Now, what I will say is I am deeply concerned by some protocols of the police that have been brought to my attention today. The lack of statements, the lack of communication, all need to be rectified and remedied in immediate fashion going forward. The fact that there is not a single report on a prolonged 40-minute plus gunfight is absolutely disgusting and unprofessional. The citizens of San Andreas are watching, and they're taking note of what is happening here today. However, the prosecution did not prove that qualified immunity was breached, although I do not doubt that Mr. Vasquez was shot. I do not doubt his pain and suffering in these events. However, we do not know who fired those shots, and we are not going to find out why. Thank you, everybody, for coming in today. Counselors, if you could please come back into the office with me. Court is adjourned.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Fucking case of bullshit.
Put the
If
cup
everybody
down.
can please exit to the back there,
I'm
thank you very
leaving.
much.
Fucking bullshit. These motherfuckers
Might
so
let the
fucking
active
stupid.
duty officers know that court has been released. It could be a hotbed.
Yeah, I'm going to. County 2 to all units, court has been adjourned.